She stated that I was told I was dull while I sipped my beer. I'm aware the saying is crying in my beer, but I wasn't shedding tears. I saw no need to weep. I felt down, certainly, but it wasn't as though I had to grieve anything. A man doesn't need to lament a woman departing. Why weep when you can simply find a replacement? Daily, I overhear women bemoaning the scarcity of decent men. It's curious how frequently I've heard that all the good ones are either taken or homosexual. At the same time, my male friends are bemoaning the shortage of women who keep their commitments. Numerous men have suffered severely in divorces. Something is amiss there. I suppose people just don't realize how fortunate they truly are. It's marvelous to spend years with a companion and learn every small preference and every minor idiosyncrasy about your partner. No, I didn't rue her desire for something different or even someone else. I regretted her labeling me as dull. I believe she labeled me dull just to dismiss me over it. That's deceptive. She hasn't exactly left. She merely informed me she intended to see someone else because I was dull. When I was younger, I adored adventures. I kayaked with my buddies around the islands off the coast and in whitewater rivers in the mountains. Once, I skipped the island day trips for an extensive paddle to Long Island, 12 miles away. All I received were comments on how it was too extensive to undertake safely. Funnily enough, I accomplished it several times without incidents. I enjoyed camping on the beach of a state park and then paddling back the next day. This wasn't considered suitable behavior for a husband and father in Karen's view. My family relied on me, and I shouldn't engage in unnecessary hazards. Consequently, backcountry skiing, my motorcycle, my little Triumph Spitfire, scuba diving, mountain biking, and rock climbing were all discontinued. Thus, being the responsible father that I was, I began skiing on meticulously groomed slopes, not too steep, mind you. I stored my dirt bike and Triumph, swapped my Softail for a road bike, and joined a gym with a climbing wall. I drove a minivan, yes, a minivan with faux wood grain siding. I know, but I loved her, so who cares? After she domesticated my leisure activities, next were the demands on my job. She disapproved of my traveling. Most trips were for a day or two to negotiate deals. Occasionally I had to travel to London, Hong Kong, or elsewhere. I was adept at securing deals that either resulted in a significant acquisition or a profitable sale for my company. She despised the international trips, as they often extended for a couple of weeks. They always included a nice bonus, so they were beneficial for our financial situation, but she detested my absence. When I became a partner, overnight travel reduced significantly. I could fly to most domestic locations, finalize the deal, and return home on the red-eye. However, it took years for me to scale down the international trips. It was a dilemma: travel frequently, earn a lot, become a senior partner, train and manage negotiating teams to finalize deals on your behalf. Opt out of traveling, let someone else undertake the trips, and bring home the benefits, watching them ascend past you on the corporate ladder. No one was going to surpass me for any reason. I played it strategically. I managed to combine reasons for travel so one journey could yield multiple commendations in my pursuit of partnership. I was the first in my company to utilize teleconferencing for initial discussions. I was careful to charter small jets for my team so we could maximize our productivity while on the ground. It took significant portions from my bonuses, but it was worth it in the long run. I advanced in my career, Karen was more content, and everyone was secure. But damn, I was bored. I sacrificed everything to align with her priorities, and now I'm mundane. So forget her, I thought. Let her seek whatever thrills she desires. Meanwhile, I'm reverting to the version of myself I adored so much from way back when. The version that enjoyed my activities, the one that defied gravity by soaring off a muddy slope during a weekend of motocross. The one that boarded a helicopter to discover untouched snow on a backcountry slope that required a full day to ski down. The one that revisited that same slope in summer and ascended it again. She anticipated that I would remain at home and wait for her remember the safety issue. Well, I was expected to be unavailable to come assist her if she encountered any problems on her date. Seriously, after 25 years of marriage and 4 years of friendship and dating during school, all this time I believed she was wise, but she wasn't. I didn't consent to this. I wasn't going to stay home for her, neither on call nor awake when she returned. Talk about dull. All agreements were off, all vows were nullified, including the promise to love, honor, cherish, and obey. Well, she had already dismissed that last one, and now I understood why. Dullness wouldn't matter if obedience was part of the equation. So I returned from work, switched into jeans and a sports shirt while she was in the shower, and was retrieving my old boots when she emerged. She always admired me in boots, riding boots, hiking boots, western boots, dress boots, it didn't matter. But they all disappeared when I transformed into the safe me, or should I say, the dull me, now that I've been redefined. However, I knew I looked sharp in those boots, they still fit perfectly, everything did. I hadn't gained weight in those 25 years, except it was all upper body muscle, so I was confident those boots looked even sharper now that I had broad shoulders and a manly chest. A dab of aftershave, a sleek sports coat, and there was no doubt I wasn't waiting up for her. She was displeased. "What are you doing tonight? You're not dressed like that for nothing. Who said dull couldn't be stylish?" I was out the door before she could respond, on my way to the weekend. The minivan started right up, and its big 4-cylinder engine roared okay, maybe it purred to life. All right, I can't fool you, the minivan sputtered and knocked its way into action. To its credit, it had sputtered up the driveway and turned towards town before Karen could dress, and I smirked as I saw her step out of the front door in her robe. It wasn't long before my cell phone rang, and I let it go to voicemail. I had prepared a new message just for the occasion. "Hi, this is Dale. I'm unavailable tonight as I'm either busy driving or being dull. If you need excitement, call my wife Karen at 555-4269. She'll be delighted to talk about me. Otherwise, leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But don't be surprised if that isn't real soon, maybe Monday. Xiao." First stop, ditch this piece of junk van. I was tired of driving something with faux wood siding. I needed something robust yet stylish. I'd settle for something with real wood siding, even like an old Willys wagon. It would look fantastic with a surfboard on top. Right, I couldn't find the right blend or an old Willys Woody, but I enjoyed writing that. Now that I'm free from that old spirit-crushing dull ball and chain, oh, it felt good to say that. Something that was both elegant and rugged suited me. The old me would have hidden the checkbook from our money market account and gone home. No way I was doing that. I bought one of each, a rugged vehicle and an elegant car. The Mercedes dealer was glad to set me up with a classy convertible. Truly elegant. Nothing is more sophisticated than a man who drives a Mercedes convertible and knows how to say very elegant in French. I know I missed the accents, but I don't care. I'm no longer dull, and looking them up would have been, wait for it, you guessed it, dull. The dealer also had a robust Jeep in his used car lot, complete with hefty lift kits, large knobby tires, bright fog lights, and an impressively loud train horn, among a dozen other aftermarket upgrades. I drove off in the Jeep, with the convertible being delivered to my home and parked in the driveway until Sunday morning. Dull, she said. The me I was never about being dull. The me she created was a dreadful bore, but that was history repressed back into oblivion while I went out seeking my first thrill of adrenaline. I bought a trailer and drove, not to the house I shared with my wife, but back to Mom's house. I hadn't visited Mom in a few months, and it was time. The 3-hour drive was exhilarating as I reacquainted myself with driving something that actually felt powerful under the hood. Mom was overjoyed and had my favorite lasagna ready. She didn't inquire why I was there or why Karen hadn't accompanied me, but she sensed something was amiss. She always had a knack for reading me. The next morning, I went out to the shed and pulled out my old Spitfire that I had stored there all these years. My brother had driven it occasionally to keep it roadworthy. I wasn't so fortunate with the dirt bike, but I didn't need to start it to load it onto the trailer. By lunchtime, I had the bike in the car on my trailer rig and a smile on Mom's face. "So, are you going to tell me about it?" I smiled back. "About what, Mom?" 25 years of shaping your life Karen's way. You raised 3 kids while burying my zest in minivans and bunny slopes. Suddenly you show up without your wife, driving a monstrous truck, flaunting your sports car and motorcycle, and sporting those sharp-looking boots. Like I said, Mom could read me like an open book. I explained Karen's recent skirmish with absurdity. "Maybe that girl may be mad, but you should thank her, honey. She set you free." Mom was right, as always. That evening, I turned my phone back on. Karen and the kids had been calling and texting all day. I grouped the kids in a text conversation and responded, "I'm fine. I'm at Grandma's. Your Mom and I." aren't seeing eye to eye about something, and I decided I needed to think, so I came to visit. Look, Mom is upset. She says you disappeared, and she doesn't understand why me. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to say why it's not my place to explain it to you. All I'll say is your mum decided I am dull, so I'm doing something about it. She can tell you what she's up to, Jenny, Daddy. That isn't like Mummy. She always plays it safe. She would never do something to jeopardize you or our family. You should come home and sort things out. Thanks, dear, for your trust in me. Before you judge me for this little incident, why don't you get the truth from your mum, Daniel? Danny, we aren't blaming anyone. We just want you to know we love you both and just want the best. Thanks, son. Let me know when you've talked to your mother. I spent the night with Mom, laughing at a cheesy old movie, and was about to turn in when my text alert sounded. Jenny, I'm sorry, Daddy. I can't believe Mummy went out with another man. Me, I know, sweetie. Denny, what are you going to do? Me, I'm going to live my life as always. I'm just not going to worry about your mom's rules for living, because if they really mattered, she would have followed the rules for marriage that we both agreed to. Not happening, kids. She set me free. I can live the way I want to, Daniel. Hi, Dad. I get it. Kiss Grandma for me, and when I come home next weekend, I want to ride in the Spitfire. Me, LOL. Yeah, you guys read me as well as your grandma. Ali, you'd better believe it, and we expect a ski vacation for spring. A break somewhere with a helicopter instead of a T-bar. What can I say? My kids knew the things I used to do and the things I truly loved. They saw pictures of me skiing in mud from motocross riding. Me, you bet. I'm thinking about it. Get yourselves in shape. Backcountry trails are fun, but they are hard work, dull, she said. Sunday morning saw Mom and I at our favorite bagel shop. I stuck around and helped her with some chores around the house. My phone didn't beep at lunch, and I laughed at the furious text from Karen. They had delivered my Mercedes. But I had locked the keys inside, and since I had the spares, all she could do was look at it, and it blocked her car in the garage. I'd have to send the delivery team an extra tip for that. I went home. Karen's car was there. I backed the Jeep down my driveway, parked it, and hopped in my new Mercedes and drove off again, chuckling as Karen ran out and tried to flag me down. Now she could gaze at my new Jeep with its trailer load of her dual nemesis, my Spitfire and my Kawasaki. Food for thought. At least her side of the garage was clear, and she could get out. Maybe she'd leave too. Easy, boring, she said. I didn't return home. Instead, I visited a mall to purchase enough clothes for a few days and then checked into the Hyatt near my office. I opted for the penthouse suite. I hadn't earned all those bonuses over the years for nothing. I slept quite soundly. The next day, I went to work as usual and informed my team that I would be joining the next trip, a business venture to Hong Kong involving 160 acres of prime industrial property. Negotiations had stalled, and it seemed as good a time as any for me to flex some executive muscle. My team was ecstatic. They had prepared 3 other potential acquisitions to explore while there. Why? Wait, I asked them when they presented their preliminary studies of the sites. Go to inspect, but be ready to buy. Notify our council over there we're coming in full force, and they need to be prepared to handle some serious paperwork. Back for at least a month, people. If you can't do that, plan to rotate with members of Ian's group. Feel free to fly your families over to see you at least once while you're gone. I don't want any relationship strains over this initiative. In fact, I'll cover hotel, airfare, and expenses for them to accompany you the entire time if you choose. I'll take off in the spring for some sightseeing. I want you energetic, eager, and effective. A month, boss? Maybe more? I plan to visit Sydney and check out that hotel group in Buenos Aires before we return. I'm also sending a team to Mumbai while we are in Hong Kong. We have a unique opportunity to make a significant profit here, people. Nice to see you back. Carter Douglas, my top negotiator, said with a grin. I returned the smile and grabbed Kim, my favorite numbers expert, by the elbow. Kim, a moment, please. I ushered her into my office, instructed my secretary to hold my calls, especially from my wife. She nodded, and I closed the door. Here's your big chance, Kim. We're going to be working swiftly and with no room for error. Most of what we purchase will be reselling almost as soon as we get back. Each transaction must occur flawlessly and promptly. Some of our acquisitions might be junk, but they'll appeal to sellers who have assets we desire. So we'll offload some to acquire others. We'll also be making some stops to open new markets for some of our product lines. These won't be deals that benefit immediately but will yield long-term profits that will impress the other partners, the people who can elevate you from that junior associate role to something much more rewarding. This is your moment, so I need you close at hand 24/7 and ready to back up any argument or claim I make. Does this mean, she asked, half joking, since Karen is dating other guys, that I get to sleep my way to a partnership? No, one woman betraying me is enough. You'll have to climb the ladder like anyone else, though I know you'd prefer it to be with me, I said, acknowledging her attractiveness but setting clear boundaries. She was stunning, lean and lithe, with legs that curved in all the right places under that stunning figure, and her often daring necklines were a constant reminder of her allure. But you work for me, so no, it's not going to happen. However, you will be right by my side, attending to all business needs on this trip. Pick me up in a limo Friday morning, dressed as provocatively as you dare, even if I'm not. Make my wife suspect the worst when you come to fetch me. When you book the limo, ask for Jan to drive and tell her to wear the uniform with the short shorts. I want my wife as jealous as possible when I leave. As I left, my team was motivated, my wife was frantic to see me, my children were upset with her, and Kim was eager not for me, but for the chance at a promotion. Well, maybe for me too, but I had made my position clear. Heading to the airport to charter a plane, I thought about skydiving. Don't be silly, I'm not trying to end it all. If I'm reverting to the thrill seeker I once was, I need to get active and seize a dose of adrenaline. It's going to be thrilling. I rented cameras for both me and my jump partner to document the stunt. I posted it on Facebook and enjoyed a terrific night's sleep. The next day, my phone was brimming with missed calls and messages from the kids. Karen was furious. The kids were enthusiastic, finally seeing the real me. Boring, she had said. But I really didn't want to see Karen, so I sneaked home while she was at work and packed my belongings. I then headed to the airport and caught a late flight to Chicago. There was no urgent reason to go, but I had some potential opportunities simmering on the back burner that might turn out to be advantageous. It proved to be a profitable couple of days and kept me out of Karen's way until the big trip. I arrived home very late Thursday night and the house was dark. Karen finally arrived at 2 a.m. and didn't even realize I was there. Fortunately, she was alone. I would have had to confront her if she had brought her boyfriends into our home, but this way I avoided seeing her until I was ready and I was geared up for it. I was up early and had my refreshed luggage packed by the door. I prepared a robust breakfast of steak and eggs and had ZZ Top blaring from the stereo in the kitchen. I was dressed in a perfectly fitting pair of gabardine casual slacks and a new stylish sports shirt that Karen hadn't seen before. Dressy comfort seemed ideal for the 18-hour journey to Asia, and I made dressy comfort look great. Karen came downstairs, lured by the aroma of my coffee. I brew excellent coffee, hers is terrible. "Oh my God, Dale, you're home. Honey, why didn't you answer my calls? I have been worried sick." "Yeah, the kids told me you were worried. No need, I'm fine. I'm just doing as I please." "Oh no, you don't, mister. I need a better explanation than that." "It's a perfect explanation. Last week you told me you were going to do as you pleased and I couldn't stop you, so I figured if wifey dear is going to do as she pleases, I might as well do the same. If it's the new us, I can live with it. I never said you could do just anything you wanted. I said I was going out with other men." "Okay, I get it, but I didn't want that. So it follows, if you can make a choice that big despite my wishes, there is no reason for me to consult you on mine." "There certainly is a reason. You have a family to be responsible for. A husband and father has no reason running around on a motorcycle or racing little sports cars. I thought we settled this years ago." "We did, but we've also grown older and our situation has changed. Karen, I gave up all those things for you and the kids. I drove a minivan. For crying out loud. I skied gentle slopes with the family. I hadn't jumped out of an airplane for years until this week. You said I was boring, that's because I was bored. Now the kids are grown. They have substantial college funds to finish school, and here's a big surprise neither you nor they know about. They each have a trust fund that matures when they graduate college. They have enough money to go to grad school and put a down payment on a nice house wherever they live. Face it, the kids will be fine no matter what happens to me or you. So if the parachute doesn't open and I die doing something awesome, I'll die with a smile on my face and they'll be fine. And me? You know I have a stake in your future too. You have a wife, Karen. I hate to break it to you, but no, I don't think I do. What now? Just hold on, Dale, that's a pretty big leap. We just started exploring this whole thing and you already think I don't think anything I know. I know I don't matter that much to you anymore. If I did, you never would have given me that ultimatum. You think I'm boring? Okay, that's easy to give up. I've got some fun too. I gave up a lot in the name of being a family man. But the family man isn't exciting enough to keep his wife from resting her head on someone else's pillow. The doorbell rang just in time to save me from another barrage in this ridiculous argument. Jai stepped in with Kim right behind her. The two brought in 4 of the finest legs you've ever seen. Did I mention how good I looked in gabardine? I looked even sharper with a top hat in my gabardine. Joy greeted me with a hug and a kiss, then proceeded to shuffle my 4 suitcases to the limo. Kim handed me a dossier and began detailing the current status of our negotiations, listing off project names and locations which captivated Karen's full attention: Hong Kong, Sydney, Buenos Aires. How long are you going to be gone? She asked. A couple of months, I expect. Plenty of time for you to explore before you're too old. Do me a favor, though don't let them into the house. Karen launched into a series of pleas that could have rivaled a fundraising marathon on public television. She had endless reasons why I needed to stay, and that we needed to discuss how our relationship had evolved and where it was headed. I stopped her there. Honey, wrong tense. Our relationship isn't going anywhere, it's gone. And right now, so am I. See you in a few weeks. I didn't absorb a word of her objections as we walked to the car, but I did manage to crack a smile at her reaction when she noticed my Jeep, my Spitfire, and my convertible parked in front of all 3 garage doors, including the one her car hid behind. Of course. What she said was too crude to repeat even here. Hong Kong was fantastic. Kim was in the suite beside me, available 24/7, but only in a professional, business-like manner as we both had agreed. She was sharp with the numbers, and we managed to close all the deals we expected and set up others for follow-up teams to finalize in a month. We were also quite successful in Australia, winding up with an agreement in principle to acquire an entire hotel group. Again, a closing team would need to return in a month. We scouted additional acquisitions and moved forward to Argentina, where I reached an agreement with a motivated seller, and our team highlighted other projects on our corporate radar. All this time, I remained faithful to my marriage vows, clinging to the hope of returning home to find Karen eager to reconcile. Sure, Karen might have lost her senses, but I still loved the eccentric woman. I wasn't quite ready to give up on her, so I interpreted her ultimatum as a declaration of an open marriage. Here we stay married, but are free to engage with others, as we please, no strings attached. Harry Moore, an old friend from college who had become a professional shopper for affluent tourists in Hong Kong, spent a day guiding my team around the famous markets. She introduced me to a fine tailor, and before our 12 days in town were over, I left for Sydney with several new, tailor-made suits. We spent the night enjoying each other's company, a mix of trust, luxury, and exotic allure, unrestrained passion. I felt guilty for about 10 minutes, which was how long it took me to recall that Karen had set the ground rules I was now following. Boring, she had said. I realized I had never truly been boring, I had simply been bored. Carrie was anything but dull, and from the way her body responded during our time together, it was clear she wasn't bored either. When we packed up in Hong Kong and moved to Sydney, we hired a tour guide named Sydney. I relished the wonderful contrast of touring the beautiful city by day and enjoying the company of the willowy, brown-haired beauty by night. I'm not being repetitive when I say I enjoyed being in Sydney. With Sydney, Rio proved to be another dynamic business environment. We didn't perform quite as well as our ventures into Asia or Australia, but we managed to justify another month abroad. Speaking of which, I met a vibrant Latin divorcee who taught me a few moves in tango, both on the dance floor and in more intimate settings. As we concluded our business deals, I sent my team back one by one on commercial flights, all in first class. I leased a jet a few days later, where the flight attendant introduced me to the Mile High Club and simultaneously to the etiquette of a threesome. I had an enjoyable trip, but I wasn't done yet. Boring? Yeah, well, you get the picture. Before heading home, I took my sun-kissed body from Rio to the ski slopes in Canada. I met up with my kids at B before Christmas, why not? They had finished their finals a week before their mother expected them home for the holiday. The skiing was thrilling, featuring steep drops on powdery slopes accessible only by helicopter. I spent my nights partying early with my kids and later intimately engaging with a voluptuous blonde housewife I met on the first night at the bar. She shared her story of being replaced by a younger model by her husband and not knowing which direction to turn. I hired her. I offered her a generous housing allowance and agreed to cover her moving expenses to become my newest personal assistant, of course. This was after our third night together. Each night, she vividly expressed her ecstasy in different languages. When she approached me in her sixth language on the third night, I decided that her translation skills would be a valuable asset to our growing international interests. Of course, hiring her meant no more intimate encounters, as my business ethics were not compromised even when my cheating wife disregarded our marriage. Besides, the weekend was almost over anyway. We flew home a couple of days before Christmas. The kids went to see their mum while I checked into a hotel near work. I wasn't ready to deal with Karen and jet lag simultaneously. I did manage to buy a condo as a Christmas gift to myself and went to spend Christmas with my wife and kids. My cars were still parked in front of the garage. There was a little Cooper convertible parked in front of my Spitfire. I was sure Karen would be angry, but she wasn't. She greeted me as if nothing had happened. Perhaps I wasn't boring to her anymore. I enjoyed Christmas, helped with the feast, washed the dishes, and took the obligatory garbage out to the garage. I parked the Mercedes and the Spitfire in their spots, then left in my Jeep. The phone rang, hoping we might both enjoy a Christmas truce, and we did. I could stay a couple of days for the kids' sake, and I did. I slept in the guest room. The day after Christmas, I took the cars one by one to be washed. Leaving them in the weather for 4 months may not have been the best move for the cars, even if it had served as a daily reminder to Karen that things had changed. I parked the Spitfire in the garage, intending to garage both the Jeep and the Mercedes at the condo. The second day after Christmas, Karen resumed hostilities. Her boyfriend came over for lunch. She smiled smugly. I went upstairs, grabbed my bag, and returned to full-scale conflict. The kids were furious with Karen, and she wasn't prepared for their anger. I guess she saw things going differently. It might have. Except it was Christmas. I stopped them to say goodbye, and they said goodbye to Karen instead. We threw their bags in the Jeep and headed downtown. There was plenty to do in the city for New Year's, and we were going to have some fun. We did museums by day and clubs by night. Both kids have friends nearby, so all three of us got chances to hang together or break away. I also managed some alone time, which I didn't spend alone. By the time I went back to work, I had heard enough music, visited enough museums, eaten enough fine food, and drunk plenty of fine wine and whiskey to last a lifetime. I settled into a routine that wasn't routine. My adventures in the Southern Hemisphere that fall had given me new stature within the company, but had also drawn the attention of our competitors. I was actively courted by other companies impressed by our sudden display of prowess. I didn't hide this from my team. In fact, I told them if I left, I was taking them along. Of course, word of what was brewing spread to the senior partners. I was summoned to the boss's office. Karen's grandfather had founded this company, and her father had transformed it into a diversified conglomerate that included a variety of manufacturing sectors. I was hired when I married Karen, starting as a low-level analyst, which aligned well with my educational qualifications. I received no special treatment and even signed a prenuptial agreement to prevent any claim to Karen's potential inheritance of the company, which remained nearly fully owned by her father. I got along well with Mr. Adams, but we were not exceptionally close. He preferred to remain personally detached from his employees, including his son-in-law. Initially, I found this odd, but as I advanced through the ranks, I appreciated how it helped him avoid favoritism, a practice I adopted myself. Hence, I refrained from engaging in personal relationships with colleagues like Kim or playing golf with my associates. Business is business. I wasn't surprised when Adams cut right to the chase. Business is business. It seems a lot has changed for you in the last few months. You've excelled at work, but seem to have had some issues with my daughter. Should I be concerned? I leaned back into the less dominant chair in front of his desk, understanding the psychology of our seating arrangement where his towering position was meant to be dominant. It reminded me of those movies where the seemingly disadvantaged swordsman strikes unexpectedly. Yes, sir, you should. After 25 years with this firm, I'm still a junior partner. I have brought in more business in the last 5 years than any other manager, and my recent initiatives in Asia were unprecedented. My earned bonuses have been higher than any other employee, including your divisional presidents. Yet here I am, still a junior partner. I'm considering taking the standard severance and moving on. Dale, I can't promote you like anyone else. You're my son-in-law. How would that look? I understand business is business, but that cuts both ways. For me, business is business means accepting an offer that reflects my abilities. I could be a full partner tomorrow at Woodford Unlimited or Mark Manufacturing. Suddenly, loyalty is important when it benefits you, but when it's about keeping me limited, business is business. And while we're discussing family loyalty, perhaps we should talk about what lessons you failed to impart to your daughter. I'm sorry, Dale. Why do you address me as Mr. Adams? I deserve the same respect that you expect. Very well, Mr. Carter. It's Dr. Carter, remember? I defended my thesis for my PhD in economics recently. Very well, Dr. Carter, it is. I'm aware of my daughter's actions and am not pleased. We've spoken, to put it mildly, and currently she isn't speaking to me. My philosophy sucks, I interjected, finishing his thought. Your stance on loyalty is completely out of touch with the rest of the world. Your business is business approach is just an easy way to deal with employees who see you as a cold-hearted boss. Is it wise to suppress your top producer just because he's your son-in-law? I see no reason not to offer my skills to another firm. Long story short, the stubborn man told me to do my worst. I did. By the close of business, everyone on my team, as well as Ian and his team, had submitted their resignations. You've never seen someone backtrack as quickly as he did. I secured a senior partnership with a significant raises for both our teams, and the creation of a new mergers and acquisitions division specifically for us. With my professional and financial future secure, I turned to my personal life. I rode my bike on wild trails and dirt tracks, raced in motocross events, and enjoyed downhill mountain biking, getting thoroughly muddy. I looked good muddy and tired, and played around with a couple of biker chicks who found it appealing. One was a Harley girl who admired my style on the motocross track and thought I was pretty impressive on the jumps for an older guy. Then she told me to give her a call when I got something bigger than my dirt bike. I informed her that what was between my legs would need more than 2 wheels. As I loaded my bike onto the carrier behind my formidable Jeep, she added her Harley alongside my Kawasaki, and we spent the evening debating the virtues of agility versus sheer power in our motorcycles. Yes, we compared the bikes amidst intense, sweaty, and vocal sessions of riding. I skied more than just Tuckerman's Ravine as the summer warmth closed the historic slope on Mount Washington. I discovered thrilling slopes and glaciers in the Pyrenees. It was amusing to see scantily clad women lounging in the sun at a high-altitude lodge right next to a snowy slope, and even more entertaining to watch them undress further in my hotel room later. I completed enough tandem skydives from a perfectly functioning airplane to qualify to jump solo, so I did. The same instructor granted me enough hours in a glider to fly solo, which I also achieved. She was thrilled to have a student earn both solo certifications in the same month. Leading us to celebrate uniquely, we skydived naked and landed on a deserted beach where we continued our celebration. We couldn't find a way to manage similar antics in the glider since the seats were back to front and obstructive, so we returned to the beach for a repeat performance. It was exhilarating the first time, so why not an encore? I shared everything on Facebook, and my page buzzed with comments and reactions from friends and family, especially the kids, who were no longer speaking to their mother any more than I wasn't speaking to her at all. She tried to corner me, but you can't pin down a moving target as opposed to a boring one. Kiss my boring backside, I thought after every post. My phone rang incessantly. I didn't block her number, I simply didn't answer. She even tried to reach me at work, using her father to summon me so we could talk. He didn't try that again after I threatened to join Woodford's. If he ever pulled that stunt again, he had to hold her back to let me leave without further drama. Then the full court press started. Aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, pets, and even grocery boys all seemed to advocate giving her another chance, arguing that everyone makes mistakes. So I challenged them. I told the women to undress and prepare for me to rock their world. If such mistakes were easy to make, lightly considered, and easily forgiven, then I should be able to indulge in a few of my own, starting with those who understood the process so well. I suggested the men bring their wives, girlfriends, mothers, or daughters for the same purpose. They were shocked, but seemed to grasp my point. I'm sure some would never speak to me again, not a loss, in my view. Tired of the tedious advice and feeling weighed down, I left. I took my team back on the road, and they were ecstatic, having had a blast during our initial spree through Asia and Argentina. This time we targeted Brazil and returned to Hong Kong. We performed so well that we leased space and opened the first international office of the firm in Asia. Karen's father couldn't object since we had generated substantial business, warranting a continued presence. Guess who was appointed vice president for operations in the Southern Hemisphere? That would be me. I positioned Ian in Argentina and Kim in Australia, and our division's business soared. I never returned home. Karen wanted to follow me, but the kids persuaded her otherwise. I didn't want her, and eventually she accepted that. I sent the Spitfire back to my mom's, along with the bike. I gave my son the Jeep and my daughter the Mercedes. I gave Karen a divorce and Carrie an engagement ring. Indeed, I had no intention of spending the best years of my life alone. I desired a wonderful woman by my side, and she adores skydiving, so I truly had it all: adrenaline, a joyful home, a fresh start, my integrity, and a substantial amount of money. There's significant money to be made in my new region of the world. If Karen had simply approached me and said, "I'm bored, let's find something new and exciting to do," I would have been ecstatic. I was bored too. We could have skied together, which would have been thrilling to teach her and bring her along on. Adventures. We could have traveled, safely rafted rivers, or zip-lined through Cambodia with minimal risk and plenty of excitement. I would have done anything for her until she chose someone else over me, which I couldn't tolerate. I've heard she is quite unhappy with the dating scene, finding the available guys unsatisfactory. She is envious because her father is extremely pleased with me for moving away from her since we are generating a tremendous amount of money for his company. She regrets her actions but realizes she can't go back. Carrie ensures that every time she steps into a helicopter with ski boots or straps on a parachute. My ultimate thrill is going to bed with Carrie every night. There is nothing Carrie won't try in bed, and she has enjoyed everything we've done together. I know this because once we've done something, she wants it again. That was never the case with Karen, even when we were young and things were good. We haven't spoken since the day her father had to hold her back so I could leave unassaulted. I'm sure she would like to talk, but she understands how little I want to do with her. One day, perhaps when one of the kids gets married or has a child, she will surely be there and I will finally have to interact. However, I'm not concerned when that time comes. My Carrie will be right by my side. No, she won't need to protect me. She'll be there to ensure I'm neither too boring nor bored. Carrie, who is 35 and had been married to me for 2 years, was a college professor for a while when this story unfolded. She had worked diligently to secure her job, and she had every reason to be proud. Her parents were notably impressed. She threw a large celebration for her graduation and new job, and the whole family was in town for it. We even postponed our marriage at her request so she could secure her dream job. This job was everything to her, and I couldn't imagine her jeopardizing it for us. But I wouldn't be discussing this today if she hadn't. She became close friends with a few of her students who were in their late 20s, making them relatively close in age. It seemed odd that she was friends with them while also being their professor. It didn't seem very professional, but I refrained from voicing my concerns. Apparently, she participated in some of their gatherings, which she described more as casual hangouts than actual parties. She mentioned they even discussed class topics because her students were exceptionally passionate and focused. I let it continue without interference, though I wish I had tried to convince her to separate her professional duties from personal enjoyment. She was so elated, feeling like she was making a real impact on their lives. She always returned home at a reasonable hour because she didn't want to leave me alone all night, and she didn't go out more than twice a month. However, I sensed something was amiss when she stayed out until 2 a.m. I was awake, waiting, which led to a major argument. She claimed she was only helping her students, but that explanation didn't satisfy me. I pressed for the truth, but she maintained her story. I asked her to take a break from socializing with her students, which upset her. She accused me of being controlling and began to cry, claiming she was a responsible adult who deserved to have her own life, especially when she found someone who brought her such joy. My eyes widened at her words, but she quickly retracted, saying she misspoke because I was confronting her and she was exhausted. I was really upset by her mistake, but I didn't have the strength to continue arguing that night. I couldn't even suggest the idea of her taking some time off from work. I didn't know how or when I could bring up the topic again. I knew I should have taken action, but I decided to wait and see what else she would do. Things calmed down for a while. She stopped staying out late and only went to work and then back home. It seemed good, although she had to grade papers at home, so I gave her space to do that. Then I saw her texting someone and it surprised her. It seemed strange, but I didn't create a scene. I thought about checking her phone later, but it was locked with a passcode. I planned to create an opportunity for her to invite students over to our place while I'd secretly be nearby, keeping an eye out. I needed to find out who these people were and if there was something more going on. She fell for my plan quickly as soon as I mentioned spending an evening with my mom at the nursing home. She got excited, called me sweet for doing it, offered to give me a ride, and said she'd pick me up later to throw me off. I agreed and headed back to the house. It took about 20 minutes. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I found it hard to believe my wife would do anything suspicious. A few times, I almost convinced myself I was being paranoid and started heading back to my mum's place, but then I changed my mind and turned back. When I reached the spot, I noticed a different car parked at our house. She thought she had all the time in the world to do her thing and then swing by to pick me up. Seeing that strange car got me very upset, and I rushed to the front door. My hands were shaking as I unlocked it and saw the most shocking sight I'd ever witnessed. My wife was getting close with her student, not even fully dressed yet. I quickly took a picture. After all, we're in a high-tech era. I had my phone out when I saw the unfamiliar car so I could snap a photo of whatever my wife was up to, just in case. If things were innocent, I might have seemed like the crazy one, but now reality began to hit me as she started to react after getting dressed and her student took off. She began shouting things I couldn't even catch, while my head felt like it was about to explode. All I could hear was my own heartbeat as I thought about how our marriage was over. The future I had envisioned with her was a false dream. Her career was destroyed. She'd never get another chance to teach at that school, and the next school would want to know why she was dismissed from this one. I snapped out of my daze and demanded to know why she risked everything she had worked so hard to build for one of her very first students. She just stared at me with a blank expression, then confessed that he had invited her to hang out and she hadn't thought anything bad would happen. I lost it and started yelling, telling her that something seriously wrong had indeed happened. She brought him into our place and things became intimate. She started giving me the finger and shouting back, insisting it wasn't her fault and that my interruption shouldn't even count. My jaw practically hit the floor. I let her know that her logic was so ridiculous that I couldn't even argue with it. I packed my stuff and got a hotel room. I wasn't in the mood to argue with her anymore that night about who should leave. It was like I was dealing with a spoiled child who thought she could get away with this because of all her past achievements. I wasn't about to stick around, and I wasn't going to let her hold on to her job either. I filed for divorce and sent the photo to the college president. Just like I figured, she got fired. She despised me and couldn't even look me in the eye whenever we crossed paths. I never saw her eyes again. She went from being this confident, flawless, high-achieving woman to someone filled with shame and disgrace. Even her parents couldn't wrap their heads around it and actually asked me to send them the picture. I did it, although I wasn't really into it. They apologized to me. My wife wasn't working for any colleges in our state. After waiting for a few years, she moved out of state, maybe because she couldn't find a job, no matter where she tried. I've started dating again, but I'm not going to be quick to trust someone's personality or assume they'll always be honest. My day kicked off just like any other regular day. I woke up early, got myself cleaned up, gave a goodbye kiss to Emily while she was still asleep, and headed to my construction job. But little did I know, there was something unexpected waiting for me. That usual day turned into something way more extraordinary later in the evening. While I was at the construction site working, I felt my phone buzzing in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a message from my neighbor Mike. He said, "Dustin, your garage door is open." This struck me as odd since I distinctly remembered closing it. I thanked Mike and asked if he could shut it if he didn't mind. He agreed, and I went back to my tasks. However, that open garage door kept bothering me. I wasn't sure why, but trusting my gut, I decided to take an early lunch break and drove back home. As I got closer to my house, my heart rate started picking up. I noticed an unfamiliar car parked in my driveway, a car I'd never seen before. In that moment, a sickening feeling washed over me. I quietly parked my truck on the street and approached my own house without making any noise. I quietly opened the side door leading to the garage, and to my surprise, it wasn't locked. The door that connected the garage to the house was unlocked too. Walking through the house without my shoes, I came across the most heartbreaking scene: my wife Emily in the arms of a stranger. They were locked in a kiss with hardly any clothes on, right there in front of me. Rage consumed me, and everything turned hazy, making me feel like I was about to be sick. Stepping back a bit, I grabbed my phone, made sure the flash was off, and took a few photos of them kissing. I also recorded a quick video of them together in my own house. In that instant, it dawned on me that seeking revenge wouldn't bring me any real satisfaction. The best way to hit back at Emily was to make her fully realize what she was throwing away. It was time for a smart plan, one that would help me come out of this situation with my self-respect intact. Despite witnessing what I did, I paused to catch my breath, then quietly left the house, my heart feeling heavy like a lead weight, but with a strategy taking shape in my mind. I decided to reach out to a friend who happened to be a lawyer. I spilled the whole story to him and asked for his advice, considering we were in North Carolina. I needed some evidence to potentially reduce the alimony I might have to pay. Armed with the proof, I showed it to my lawyer friend. Even though he wasn't a divorce attorney, he pointed me in the right direction and helped me understand the necessary steps to protect myself. He gave me the contact information for a reputable divorce lawyer who could assist me. He mentioned she was excellent. When I met with the divorce lawyer, I didn't beat around the bush, I spilled all the details. She explained that North Carolina was a no-fault state, but infidelity could influence alimony payments for the spouse receiving support. We sorted out the divorce paperwork and discussed our strategy moving forward. Emily had no idea what was happening. A few days later, my lawyer and I arranged a meeting with Emily at a local cafe. She looked surprised to see me there, her eyes wide with confusion, and asked, "Dustin, what's happening?" I pushed the divorce papers across the table, and her expression shifted from puzzled to shocked. She stammered, "Dustin, I don't understand." I looked at her, my heart aching, and said, "Emily, I think you do. I saw you with him." Her face turned pale, and I could tell she was beginning to understand. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she apologized. Even though she was upset, I knew I was making the right decision. Over time, Emily refused to sign the divorce papers. By then, I had already moved out of our place and found a small apartment for myself, since the house belonged to Emily's parents. I wasn't concerned about that. The day after she received the divorce papers, her parents offered her financial support to hire her own lawyer. However, her parents didn't know why I was divorcing their daughter, and I figured Emily wouldn't reveal the truth either. That's why I decided to share the photos and video I took when I caught her with that guy in our house. I sent a package to her parents explaining why I was divorcing their daughter. About 6 weeks later, when the divorce hearing came around, her parents didn't show up. My lawyer informed me that Emily was going to try asking for alimony. She mentioned it probably wouldn't work, but she wanted to keep me informed. During the hearing, my wife's lawyer claimed on her behalf that I wasn't a good provider and had been offensive in court. My wife continued to spin lies. At one point, the judge warned her about the importance of telling the truth in court, noting that lying could lead to serious consequences, which was precisely what she was doing. Fortunately, we presented the evidence to the judge, and he granted me the divorce without awarding her any alimony. The judge gave me exactly 30 days to collect the rest of my belongings from the house. I only had a few boxes left to collect around 3 months after the divorce was finalized. I made plans to retrieve my belongings. As I drove into the driveway, I saw the same car that the guy used to drive parked there. Seeing his car initially hurt, but that feeling quickly dissipated. This time, the garage door was intentionally left open for me to gather my things. Emily had messaged me suggesting we should meet up sometime, and I received that message one day. Curious about what she wanted to discuss, I agreed. We had our initial meeting at the same restaurant where I had given her the divorce papers earlier. She no longer seemed like the confident and content woman she once was. Instead, she looked like a pale shadow of her former self. She began talking, sharing how difficult life had become for her. She expressed regret for her actions and admitted missing me a lot. Despite this, her words didn't impact me much. I felt detached. I remained silent during her entire monologue. When she finished, I turned to her and said, "Emily, I hope things work out for you, but that part of my life is history now." Even after I made it clear that my decision was final, she continued trying to change my mind. She told me she was done with the other person and wanted us to reunite. As I walked away from the coffee shop, I realized I had come out on top, not because Emily was sorry or upset, but because I had found a sense of contentment within myself. My life had turned around, and I had discovered my inner strength. Moving forward with my life, I started anew, slowly piecing it back together step by step. The most satisfying revenge wasn't about getting physical or causing public humiliation. It was about moving forward with more strength and wisdom than I had before. After about 7 months, Emily's father passed away due to cancer. He never showed any remorse for his initial anger when he found out about our divorce. On the other hand, her mother did apologize and invited me to the funeral. I considered skipping it, but I didn't hold any grudges against her mother. I'm not the type to hold on to feelings towards others. The past can't be altered. As time went on, rumors started circulating that Emily was sinking even deeper into legal trouble. Things continued spiraling as she got arrested for drunk driving on a weekend, and her current partner was involved in shady dealings, including trafficking pills from her mother's place. How did I find all this out? Her mother still reaches out to me occasionally. Our marriage only lasted 8 years before ending. This means she might have been entitled to spousal support for about half of that time. However, she went through with it anyway, and that had an impact on the outcome that was reached.